Welcome to Von's Doghouse, man. We here to talk ball once again, man. Today I got a special guest, man. I admire this dude online, man. I really enjoy his talking points. I really enjoy, hearing him talk ball. So I thought it was only right that I bring one of my favorite people to follow on first. My guy Dezz, man. Dezz, man, how you doing, man?
Man, I'm gravy, man. Just enjoying these raindrops in the background.
Yeah, man. That's always good, man. Telling people a little bit about yourself, man. Just introduce yourself a little bit.
Man, Dez, straight out of South Memphis, man. Love my Grizz, as you see. Before the Grizz ever even existed, I was a big basketball fan. Thanks to seeing Penny Hardaway at the Bluff City Classic. It was an open summer run in Memphis. My daddy took me. I forgot how young I was. I don't even know if I was in elementary yet, like maybe late 80s, early 90s. Probably when he first got to U of M, maybe even his freshman year, something like that. Whenever Penny first jumped in the Bluff, that's when I got on b-ball, and I ain't looked back since, man.
Hey, man, that's so dope, man. You literally interwoven into the culture and timeline of the city. Even when it comes to the Memphis Grizzlies, man, because y'all been there even as fans came along. The fans that are from outside of the state or right down the road in Nashville or right down the road here or there. So this is actually a left field question. This is one that we didn't even talk about before this, man. But how did you feel when the Memphis Grizzlies came to the city? What do you think was the switch for it to take on a life that it's taken on now? And just explain, what that was like, becoming a fan of the Memphis Grizzlies before it was, popular, like when it was fresh and new. Were you a fan? I just want to know a little bit about that.
Yeah. So originally, like so many people in the city, I was a fan of the Magic by default because of Penny. Like people just follow Penny or whatever. Once we got the Grizzlies, I'm the type of person, a home team is always my team. I really don't care about nothing else.
Right.
I was a Cowboys fan first, and then the Titans came. I liked the Titans up to a certain point, and then I couldn't stick with Jeff Fisher. But when they first got here, man, I was on board. I think most people was on board. I know Mayor Harrington fought hard to get to get the town. To get the team here. He fought diligently. I remember what the FedEx Forum, what the land looked like around it before they even built the downtown. I still remember that because I used to catch the bus home from school back in the day before the forum was even started on. So them doing that, it was just a grand thing to do. It was like the christening of the city, making it as a city, if that makes sense. Like it
Yeah.
was like christening the ship. You know what I'm saying? We finally set sail. When they got here, it was dope, and to this day, it was dope. It was dope for Lorenzen Wright to have played for the team. It's dope to have Elliot Perry have something to do with the team now, Sox. It's just a real cool experience. As far as what break ground on what it's turned into, I know everybody talks about grit and grind, but I think the moment that a lot of the city started connecting with it was when Powell had dunked on KG. I think that was like everybody would start being like, all right, we got one, we got somebody, we got something to go
Yeah.
watch. Cause here people want to show, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? We don't care
Show.
if we don't care if it's a bruising show like Zebo and Tony Allen and Mark. We don't care if it's like a high rise like Ja. You just gonna give us some type of show, and it's gotta have heart to it.
Yeah.
That's why that Edie play the other day. It resonated. It woke up a lot more. You see a lot more people mentioning him on the timeline now, right? That's
Yeah.
what we like to see here personally. It's that old New York Knick vibe, but we
Yeah.
still like some flash with it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. When I moved to Tennessee, and I was in Nashville, I got to see that big stadium downtown, the quarterback's black, the running back's black. And, for a long time, that wasn't really a thing in the NFL, having a black running back, quarterback, receiver, tight end, defensive back, linebacker. Like, it was a very black team. And I have no shame in saying that I really resonated with the Tennessee Titans because of that. And then, being in the state of Tennessee, got the Grizzlies games coming on TV constantly, and then playing AAU, playing football, and going to visit the city of Memphis. Man, it's nothing like the city of Memphis. It's nothing like it. I mean, I get that same vibe from other places like New Orleans. I get the same vibe there.
Yeah.
Nothing like New Orleans, but like nothing like Memphis either. Like they're just their own. It just seemed like they're their own country inside of the United States. Man.
Scott Van Pelt mentioned that on ESPN one day. He said it's like its own world. I call it the I-55 corridor connection because you go up from New Orleans, you come through Jackson, where blues and stuff is, and you come through Memphis, you shoot through St. Louis, then you go to Chicago. That's one strip of highway. It just go all the way up, and that's kind of a connection. We get.
Yeah. It's a beautiful city, man. But all those names that you mentioned, I was super big on when OJ Mayo came here because he played in West Virginia, not too far from where I was from. So when we drafted him, I was like, oh yeah, it's about. You got to remember, man, the expectations when we drafted OJ and when we had Rudy, and then we knew we had something with Mark and Zach, and then Conley. Man, I thought we was gonna win one, man. I really did. So, but it's dope to hear from your perspective because you were there from like its very inception. You know what I mean? So it's really dope to hear that from you. But we're gonna get started, man, with the I want to really hear your thoughts about what's going on now, with the city of Memphis and the Memphis Grizzlies. And over here in Von's Dawghouse, when we have or feel a certain way about someone that may be, doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing, we put them in the doghouse. You know what I mean? So whenever you done hearing getting your take off, or whatever the case may be, you might hear a little bark. You know what I mean? Put them in the doghouse. You might put them in the doghouse, man. So when it comes to the Grizzlies in these first 10 games, I just want to hear your impressions on the Grizzlies. What are some things that you love? What are some things that you don't like right now? And what are some things that you're hopeful for or worryful for in regards to the future in these first 10 games?
After the first 10, you got to kind of look at the offense, right? Everybody harped on the half-court offense, myself included. We were kind of bottom third of the league ever since Taylor Jenkins got here in half-court offense. Regardless of the talent that was on the roster, that was a constant. That was one thing you could count on. I think now probably won't be bottom third of the league. That means 20. What is it? 20th team through 30th, right? Probably won't do that. Probably be somewhere mid-tier, upper mid-tier. I'm hoping for, because they still got to get it. Yeah, they still got to get adjusted to it. They only human, right? And when you got a roster in constant fluctuation, that makes it a little bit harder. Because you having different people having to play point guard or facilitator. And nobody on the entire roster in the entire organization is going to be anywhere near the impact of what Ja is. And when you got Ja out, like at the 10th game mark out now, it changes, things dramatically. As far as what I've seen so far, you got Edie. I saw the report just came out, 16.9% offensive rebound rate, number one in the league. Last person do that they rookie year through, I think, this point in the league, well, for an entire season, they rookie year was Hakeem Olajuwon. So that's good company.
You're hearing a lot of Hakeem, Ralph Sampson. You're hearing a lot of that when you read these stats off for Edie. So that's good company to be in.
Well, one of the things that he has in common with Hakeem is Hakeem started playing ball late too. Both of them started playing ball later. Yeah. So it's something about guys that start playing ball later to just pick it up. Like them, MB, like when it come natural, it's natural. That's how you know somebody's a natural, because you can't teach size, right? Yeah. You could just work with it and nurture it. So I think Edie is probably my biggest takeaway. Laravia is showing he's an actual NBA player, because he definitely fought through like being subpar. Like he fought when in track, when they say run through the tape, he
Yeah,
ran through the tape. Like that's what
yeah,
he's done at this point. I got to give him his props on that. As far as him facilitating, I don't. You should probably keep that to a minimum. Purpose, if he's purposefully doing it, like make it more in the flow of the game. Because if he handling it, he can draw fouls, but he ain't gonna set up teammates quite right. Lucas
it's like
is
it's like the phenomenon that you talked about in space and that we talk about all the time is just because you're racking up assists don't necessarily mean that you're a guy that sets the table, that you're a playmaker. You know what I mean? So like you're right.
yeah, but it's a role he was kind of forced into due to injuries to seven
Yeah,
backcourt players.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what's best with this new system from I think it's Tomas. I think that's how you pronounce it.
yeah.
So
Tomas Isolo, I think.
yeah, Issa, that is it. That's what's best in his system anyway. Is just moving the ball. It's just when Jai is out there, I think the best plan of action is to just get a ball to Jai, like at the end of the day, and let him at least initiate it. So he's a threat out there. 10 games in, Jalen Wells. I mean, one of the better perimeter defenders in the league so far. 1/8 of the season through. Play excellent defense so far on Austin Reeves. Play excellent defense on Tyrese Maxey. And Jordan Poole, I mean, he took all the chlorine out the pool. It's algae in there now. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
water's murky. So that was damn good. Like he was impressive, especially when he hawked them down full court and blocked that shot. Like that's not normal things from a rookie in the NBA. There wasn't slated to do. You would expect Ryan Dunn to have came in and played defense like that in Phoenix, which he is something similar. But Jalen Wells has blown everybody away with defense. Nobody had an expectation like this, and I think it's safe to say, Tyrese Maxey probably would have went off if he wasn't guarding.
For
And
sure.
probably Jordan Poole too. So it's lovely to see. BC has surprised me 10 games through. I didn't know how he would bounce back from not being the athlete it appears that he once was, but that just lets you know he's a more cerebral player than we all figured because he's at least been able to hold his own on the court still. And nobody saw Jay Huff like doing this. I don't care what they say. They might have saw him doing good, but he is now a vertical threat and a far out threat. Like he's a deep threat and a vertical threat. So he's stretching defenses from 25 feet to 11 feet in the air at the rim. That's crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. He's been impressive. He's been impressive. I think that's a running theme with the team as well. Like, there's a lot of guys, like even me, like I was very high on Jalen Wells. I was very, very high on Jay Huff because he played right down the road, Charlottesville. So I was aware of and following these guys for a long time. You know what I mean? So, but I didn't even expect, like Scotty last night, he had a triple-double. I think the running theme is our young guys are playing above their heads right now. And that's great for right now. We'll see if they can keep it up, but eventually, that wall gonna come, and we're gonna need our stars and our guys that are not available right now to step up and do their due diligence. But that's been a running theme, though. It's been guys playing above their head. Jake LaRavia becoming I would say he's probably a pretty elite rebounder at his position and what you expect from him. He's pretty good at rebounding, and his effort is. I gotta respect effort.
yeah, no doubt. He been doing his thing on that loose balls and stuff because he know what's gonna help him stick in the league now. Like he knows that the original plan for him was 3-and-D, right? He know that ain't exactly gonna be what keep him around, So I'm glad he realized that he playing to his strengths of what he's gonna be in the NBA now, and I mean that the sky's the limit for him now that he knows his role and who he's gonna be. I think that's an important thing. Define roles is important for anybody. Look at Jaren. Last year, him and Bane were able to find out what it felt like, the pressure every night that you're going to get this ball, this possession. You know what I'm saying? Like you're the focal point. He got to feel it. So as it comes to him this year with an extra 25, 30 pounds, whatever he gained, is helping him like shrug off defenders. Like he moved Giannis out the way a couple times when we played the Bucks. Now we haven't necessarily
That's
played a
crazy.
contender. We because I mean, Giannis is listed at what 248, so or
And
250, right
that's
at 250.
and that's a very solid 250, 240.
Yeah, and Trip easily is bigger than him now, like quite easily 20 pounds heavier. So that's now we haven't played any contenders through this first 10 games. Like I make that abundantly clear.
Yeah,
Uh,
nah, zero,
unless
zero.
you count the Lakers, and that ain't it either because they roster
They
not
not
filled
they
out.
not a they not a regular season juggernaut contender. When the playoffs come, of course, they're contenders always with AD and LeBron. But yeah, you're right, zero contenders,
So
zero.
the first 11 games, because we play Portland, so the first 11 games and whoever we play after that. So it's gonna be some games where we face a contender. I'm happy these injuries were early. You're not never happy for injuries, but if you're happy for anything, you're happy they happened early in the season when your schedule was softer.
And
Um,
they not like serious.
Serious, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know what the jaw report came out today with, but that's I
let me
don't know
check
what
that. I
was
didn't.
said.
I'm not even sure they came out with anything yet. Let me check. I'll be honest. Rest, ice, elevation, compression is super important when you are sore or something is sprained or people being on crutches is not always an indication of how bad an injury is. Because I remember in high school I had a high ankle sprain. And I was on crutches for like 2 weeks, but I never missed a game. So it was just to be on crutches to, help that swelling go down and keep you off of it, keep the pressure off of it until it heals up to a certain point. But I think that's more what it was about. I'm hoping that's more what it was about because when he fell and he got undercut out of the air, he kind of like he didn't have the reaction of like, oh, I hurt something really bad. He kind of limped to the sideline, but even in the post game interview, he didn't seem worried. Um, that's not saying a lot though because he did the same thing last year and he tore his rotator cuff. So that's not saying a whole lot. But crutches is not always an indication that something is terrible when it comes to injury. So I'm interested to see what the report says too. That the Grizzlies are always going to take the scenic route to recovery.
Yeah, they are. I think it's a more. I don't know. I think they know that the timeline is sped up. Every year you get a little bit closer to not being where you could be. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a labrum he had the torn. I don't think it was a
Yeah, it was
rotator
yeah,
cuff.
my bad. It was a labrum. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Sorry. Yeah,
Yeah, with Ja, I think he tough as nails, man. He be back in no time. And whatever no time is, even if that's a month, that's still no time because it could have been work, So when
yeah.
he come back, and he had already spoke on, not wanting to dunk and stuff more anyway. So, we'll see how his game changes even more because of this. Because it will. It'll change him. It'll be more alley oop sitting down, right? So
Yeah. And he
dude is
hasn't
phenomenal.
really. And you're right. He hasn't dunked a whole lot this year. Laravia threw that lob a lot, like very late as well. So I think moving forward, I would love for our surrounding players to not even put him in those positions in the regular season.
Well,
Um,
that's stem from what we said though. Facilitators need to facilitate. If that ain't in your bag, you know, let
yeah,
you get somebody hurt like that. He threw him at the backboard. That's what he threw him at. So it's
exactly.
messed up, but it'll fix itself. I got faith in that.
Yeah, and I think he'll be all right. I seen Vince get sent down to the hustle. Um, so he's on his way back. Vince is on his way back. Like, what is the expectation for Vince this year? What would categorize as a great year for him? What would categorize as a fair year for him, and what would be a disappointing year for Vince?
what was he at? He was at 10 points, about three something assists last year.
Yeah,
Top five perimeter defender on an injury riddled team. Still, him and Tripp basically managed to keep us in the top 12 defensively across the
yeah,
board. I would say help prepare the team in the top 10 of defense this year. That's the low end. I just think that's the floor for them is a top 8 defensive team. For offense, at 10 points, I would say get between the 12 and 14 range. Now he don't need a large spike, just 12 to 14, probably 4 to 5 assists. I want to see him work his way in there as like
a
a
connector.
Swiss Army knife player. Not so much a connector as a Swiss. I want to see him. I see Vince as more of a Karolinko. That's
Ooh,
how I
I
see
like
him.
that. Yeah, I like
Like
that.
he got that type of IQ because Karolinko had that type of IQ to be more than just a connector. Because a connector is cool, but it's a lot of connectors that don't like. Boris Gial was a
A
connector,
connector. Yeah.
but because of Vince's defensive ability and the fact he has a little bit more athleticism than a Gial, I would say I want to see him more as a Karolinko, more of a killer that silently kills the other team. So about 12 to 14 points, about 4 to 5 assists, and a top 8 at least a top 8 defense for the Grizzlies because the offense is going to be better. But the reason I say that, in order to win a championship, you basically have to be top 10 in what offense and defense. No matter where you
Yeah.
are on that scale, you got to be in both. And I'm hoping the offense is good enough, when they fully healthy. And he got to be good enough to I think personally at least solidify the argument of being small forward starting. He got to be able to solidify that argument flat out.
Yeah.
And that's a good season for him. Disappointment will be coming back just not ready. But I just don't think he's not going to be ready, because even if he matched last year's number with the improvement of talent on the floor around him, I still think that's a good bar. Like, I still think that's good. So I would just say regressing, like it from what he did last year. As long as you don't regress below that, then we good. He can stand pat and it'll still be as good or better than me.
Yeah, yeah, especially with the guys healthy. If you can give me 10, 3, or whatever, like as a essentially a bench player, if you can give me 10 consistently with the assists and the rebounds and the defense,
38% 3-point shooting too.
yeah, that's solid. But I think those guys. I mean, we heard Zaire talk a little bit about how good AC was to helping him fix his shot and improving his percentage. We saw what he did with Gigi in just 1 year, like how he made him
Oh
a
yeah.
45% 3-point shooter from the corner. His shot was more consistent. We've seen that, so I'm interested to see what those guys are doing in the dark. I'm interested to see with Vince and with Gigi and with Cam and what those guys look like in the dark and how that's going to translate to when they come back. But you mentioned Jalen Wells. Jalen Wells he's played himself into a spot where he's kind of getting this buzz behind his name. You got some people
Mhm.
wanting him to potentially stay in that starting lineup, which I have no issues with. How do you view Jalen Wells and potentially his trajectory as this season continues to flow and weighs on?
Look, who we play next? Portland. If he go out there and hold Anthony Simons the way he just held Tyrese Maxey and Austin Reeves and whoever and Dame Lillard was first. He held him to like 1 for 12. So if he go out there and do that, like against Anthony Simons too, you're gonna have 5 people that this dude then basically took out the game.
Yeah,
Again, as you inch toward 20 games, right? If he's done this if he do this for 33% of the games out of 20, it's a hell of a conversation to have. If he do it for 40%, you're knocking on, hey, don't mess up a good thing. If he do it for 10 games out of 20, I don't know. I don't know how you move him to
yeah,
somewhere that you don't have him on the floor. Because, okay, who you put in, Defense is important, especially in a league where they don't really allow them to play defense. So you got somebody that's giving you way above average results defensively in a league where they encourage player movement freely and they discourage tough defense. He playing hard nosed defense. He's 21 years old. That's crazy. So to me, his trajectory is if that shot falls more, is it. If he out there, shooting 10 threes and he clipping them at 4 to 5, because at 4 to 5 is the range you want any given night, because you're gonna slip sometimes and hit 3, you're gonna go up sometimes and hit 6. But that 4 to 5, that's when you in between, you flirting with 40 to 50%. Those are the magic numbers in the NBA to get you a ludicrous size contract. You know what I'm saying? So if he can give you that, or 3 out of 5 some nights and then 2 out of 5 others, again, he giving you within that range, 40% to 60%. So if he can get in between 40 and 50% in threes, 2 to 3 assists, and that level defense, I don't know how you sit him. And he don't got to start, but you better mirror his minutes with whoever finna kill you.
Nah, seriously. And I mean, another thing that we don't talk about is like he looks comfortable. Like he's not turning the ball over. He's getting downhill. He's making that mid-range shot. He's getting all the way to the basket. He's passing. His playmaking has been the most pleasant surprise to me. I think he's probably the only person on the team who throws the ball to Edey consistently. I think he's the only person on the team who sees the cutter consistently. So I really like what he's doing, man. But that's going to lead to my next question. Because, I mean, we just talked about 2 guys that we think should be a heavy part of this rotation. And then in January, you got GG Jackson coming back into the fold as well, who's going to be in the dark a lot longer than these guys. People think he's going to come back rusty. I think this is a blessing in disguise, because the fact that he can't get up and do the dunking, he has to work on the shooting right now. He has to work on the mental reps of the game right now. So I'm interested to see what, extended period of time working with Anthony Carter and then joining this team in January, kind of like how he did last year. He joined the team in about January, I believe, and took off. So what are your expectations for GG Jackson, and what would be a disappointing year for GG Jackson?
With a talent like that, I'm a lot more imaginative, because he's been a high level player for his age, his whole life, basically. So, and I saw him that last game of the year against Denver last year. I was in the forum and I watched him. All his reflexes are so lightning quick. To be 6'9" and have those type of reflexes, that type of athleticism, and that type of savvy, that means something. That says a lot. Hopefully he come back and put on some weight, because I know that was a problem he said he kept having. People were just stronger than him last year. Even when he said Giannis was pinching him on the side, and it was hurting. Like, the kid he was small last year. Like, he was playing against grown men. So hopefully he's had time to, put on that 7 to 12 pound range to get a little bit bigger, so he can 19. Withstand the contact.
It was 19 last year. Yeah, he was a baby. He a baby.
He was 19 the whole season. So when he come back, I don't know, man. Like, the way he's talking, he's saying everything right. Like, I got to come back and fit with these other guys. I got to play defense. I got to put my nose to the ground and sniff out loose balls and all this type stuff he, got to do. That's cool. But, bro, you got a natural gift to put the ball in the bucket and to do it efficiently. And you have the size, the wingspan, and the athleticism to do it with. And you just got that uncanny natural feel for the game. Everybody can compete. That's why Charles Barkley and Shaq talked to him after the victory. That's why he was on ESPN doing this, and this, because everybody can kind of see glimpses of what could be. So I'm a lot more imaginative. For him, it's not a solid numbers thing I want to see. It's more or less, has his feel for the game grown? Does he see the open man now? What does it look like when he's trying to find the cutter? Is the ball placement right on the passes now? Because that's part of his game. He never really had to probably excel at before because he never played with that many talented people before. So,
and he was kind of. I pointed this out. He pretty much played the four for most of his life, and then when he went to college, he kind of got thrust and just being essentially de facto point guard. The James Harden role. So, yeah, you're right. It's gonna be interesting. Yeah, my bad.
no, I was just saying, imagination is what I got for him. I like a lot of people talking about his jump shot and the consistency of it. That's cool, but if he get his handle right, he's gonna be a lot more free for a lot more jump shots than people might think. It'll come easy actually. If his handle is like tight, like I know he admires Paul George game. If he get a Paul George level handle, or at least he can show snippets of that this season with Jai and Bane and Jaren and Edie, like it would be nothing. Because at that point he could run the pick and roll. At that point he could run the pick and roll with Edie. And as good as Jai is, if he coming down here let you at 6'9" with that type of length and finishing ability, and Edie the one rolling, and two more people out on shooting threes, it's gonna be really hard. So his versatility is what I'm looking for, because the more versatile he comes into the season, that's the more advantages you have over the opposing defense. So that's what I look forward to seeing.
We talked about three other guys that we really like, and that's up to 7 already. So there's a log jam basically, and this roster there's we didn't even talk about Marcus Smart, and I think that's fair, man, because I'm looking at this roster with Marcus Smart, and I just don't. When Jalen Wells is playing the way he playing, and then if you have Vince come back and play the way he's playing, and I know Laravia is not a great on-ball defender, but he's been disruptive off-ball. He gives you the size to be able to contest and rebound off-ball, but we don't need that many on-ball defenders. You know what I mean? And then we got Scottie Pippen, who's a on-ball pest himself. I find a hard time trying to figure out where to put Marcus on this roster at $20 million. For what we have and what's being grown and what's being nurtured and what's happening in Memphis, that's the question I want to ask you. Where does Marcus Smart fit on this team? We could throw Luke Kennard in there too. I think his role is obvious, but where does Marcus Smart fit?
If he ain't knocking down jump shots, there is no role. And that's just the truth. If you're playing with John Morant and you can't hit a jump shot and you can't catch a lob, you in trouble. Because you ain't finna have the ball in your hand. That's just breaking it down to its simplest form. You ain't even got to talk about whatever the offensive scheme is. Very simple. 99% of all NBA teams are better if John Morant has the ball in his hand. Just flat out.
Sure.
What do you do to complement that? Do you take off to the rafters and dunk? Or do you go out there to that line to keep the defenders from putting him on his behind? Which one is it that you do? Now, Jay Huff, the reason he got a 4-year contract is because he can do both. So he'll be here. If you can do both, you'll be here with John Morant. If you can do the one from outside the line exceptionally well, they'll keep an entire fan base on pins and needles just to sign you in the summer, aka Luke Kennard, right? If Jalen Wells is playing D like that, and Vince Williams Jr. a dog,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I haven't seen Marcus Smart play defense at the level that Vince Williams did last year in years since he won DPOY. I haven't seen it.
Jalen Wells this year, that
was my next point. I have not seen it, and Gigi brings something that Wells and Williams don't bring to the defensive table. You know what that is? Blocking shots. He adds that dynamic. He can block shots on ball if you put him at the 3. We saw it last year. Nobody can, you can't go over that. 6'9", 6'3", 6'9", 6'3". It's a difference there. Nobody's shooting over Marcus. Nobody's shooting over GG Jackson standing flat footed. I've seen people shoot over Smart. So I mean, he can play D. And if John not on the court, okay, you give him the ball. But this is my point. Scottie Pippen Jr. can run the offense and get you 10 assists and 10 to 20 points any given night. Can Marcus
and even he is playing better defense than Marcus Smart right now.
Exactly. So it's like
6'3". 6'1" is a lot closer to 6'3" than 6'3" to 6'9".
I don't even the issue I got with it is I'm not even paying attention to the defensive side of the ball. Because again, you got to be able to play with Ja Morant. And that's why, Huff will probably, by the end of this season, Huff might see more minutes than Clark. That's very realistic. The earlier Ja come back, the quicker we'll know that. But it's something about a guy that can shoot that standstill three and catch a lob. That's hard to deal with. Vertical and lateral threat, however you want to stretch the floor, that's how he does it. And, that's one thing, like with Smart and Clark, I see damn, y'all have counterparts that are younger than you that can do both. And that's difficult for that. You can't overlook that. Just because you're getting paid more, if you're not going to be able to produce at the same rate, I don't see no problem with keeping Clark. But 20 M's is a lot for somebody that can't shoot.
Yeah.
Is a career 32% 3-point shooter, 30 below average, league average. I don't know what you do with that. I don't know how you manage that.
And availability. Obviously this team has a lot of availability problems, but Marcus Smart is like a repeat offender. So that's going to be interesting. But that leads to my last question, because we didn't even talk about Santi. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about Scottie Pippen. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about the big three. We didn't spend a lot of time talking about the big three. But when you look at this roster at the moment, you know what I mean? We didn't talk about Luke Kennard a whole lot. It's just a lot of players on this team that could potentially play. But eventually this rotation is going to have to shorten down to 9 or 10 players. Who are your 9 or 10 players that you would shorten it down to when it comes to the rotation?
You got Ja, Bane, Vince, Jaren, Edie. Off the Oak, give me Pip, GG, Wells, Huff, and Santi. I didn't name anybody in order particularly. Just that's the people I'm rolling with, because it gives you all three. Well, really 4 7-footers. So instead of the one we was begging for, you get 2 extra ones. You get wing length. You get GG at 6'9". You get Wells at 6'7", 6'8". And you get Vince at 6'6". Yeah, 6'6", 7'6", and then you get those are the support help for your big three. Because Jaren don't physically need the help, but John Bane would always have somebody on the wing with them that could take the main assignment at all times. That's the goal. You want somebody above 6'5", above Bane's height, that can, play that elite level D. So you got 3 of them. And Vince and Wells, with those 2, I know for sure. And, GG is at least going to be slightly above average at that. And Santi proved he could play the 3 now. So Santi gives you somebody that can give you a 3-4 role, like a legit 3-4 role in the NBA. Because you don't know if GG could do that shit. And, Pip to run the offense, because you need somebody that can set up the offense that can also stretch the defense. That's why I didn't name Smart, because I don't think he can, off the dribble, consistently hit threes. Off the pick at the top of the key, I don't know if he can do that.
I definitely agree with your lineup. I probably will have the same lineup. I'm pretty sure a lot of us will have the same lineup. Whether or not the coaching staff sees that, that's a whole nother point, which we'll talk about at a later date, because I know you got a lot for that one. Um, when we talk about that topic, but I saw something interesting. Shout out to EJ. Shout out to Grindhouse Spaces. Please go subscribe to their YouTube and get them views on YouTube, and go check out his spaces on Twitter as well um at Grindhouse Spaces, Grizzly Spaces. But he had an interesting concept regarding how well Jalen Wells is playing at that shooting guard, of potentially seeing Bane in a Manu Ginobili type role.
Yeah, I brought that up this summer and they crucified me for it, man. I
It
was
was
the
you
one
who
that
brought it up.
initiated
Yeah,
that.
yeah, it
Yeah,
was.
I initiated that
Yeah,
and they crucified me. Well, it's actually, you know what? I'm gonna tell you what struck it up in my mind, right? It wasn't. I use Ginobili because people in this fan base are younger, but really it was Vinny Johnson. It was the microwave that made me think of it. You know what I'm saying? I
okay.
was like, and then I thought
Yeah,
about Mark Aguirre coming over on that same Pistons team, and he would have been a surefire Hall of Famer had he stayed in Dallas, but he would have been losing to Magic Johnson in the conference finals every year for the rest of his career. But he went over to the Pistons. He split his minutes with Dennis Rodman. The sky was the limit after that, right? He started, but he still split them minutes with the worm. Benny Johnson, the microwave, came off the bench and broke people's back. Cedric Maxwell with the Celtics won a Finals MVP with split time, kind of, right? So I'm looking at these guys. Tony
Andre
Kukoc,
Iguodala.
yeah, Tony Kukoc, another starter level player, borderline all star that come off the bench. In order to win a ring, you need somebody off the bench that can start on most other teams. You do. Now, to me, because that's a given, right? A starting five ain't just winning you. That's why they say,
Because that's why I worked in OKC with Russ, Katie, and
yeah,
Harden.
Harden came off the bench. People forget that.
Yeah,
Yeah, he came off the oak. It's like for Cephalosha. So they put Cephalosha in there to play elite D from the jump, and then Harden come in and play the D and give you offense, right?
yeah,
So
he'll break your back, like you said. He'll blow
you
your
need
doors
somebody
off.
that, and that's what they did to the Spurs that year. Remember, the Spurs couldn't
Yeah,
catch a breath because he came in and finished them off.
yeah.
And you need that. So for the Grizzlies, like it's built in. It's common knowledge in basketball. You need that, right, to win a ring. So knowing that, at that point, I'm thinking, what's the best starting fit with John Morant? Because you always got to make the best fit with your best player. Because the Bulls could have started Kukoc, but Ron Harper was a better fit because he would facilitate along with Pippen, and he was 6'6". So you had 3 6'6" to 6'7" guys out there that could long arms and athletic enough to play the D. Kukoc necessarily couldn't play D at
And
their
then
level. When you look at right now today in the NBA, that's big. When
oh
you
yeah,
well
sure.
when you take the playing profile of a Pippen, Jordan, and Ron Harper, you're talking about all three extremely long people with defensive prowess and above average. Even after Ron Harper got hurt, he still had above average athleticism. So it ain't even no iteration of that in the current league. But my point is that's what pushed. That was enough to push Kukoc to the bench. Even Phil Jackson knew, like, because remember, Phil loved Kukoc so much so that when Jordan retired, he gave Kukoc the game winning shot instead of Pippen. But when Jordan came back, get your ass to the bench because this is what we need to win the championship. So that was my whole argument. People, they love what they love. They're in love with the team per se, and I'm in love with basketball. Neither one is better than the other one, but
Oh,
I just got a different.
I gotta clip that. That was beautiful. I like that.
I got a different perspective on the league, man. It's like it's 78 or 79 years old. I forget which one now, or 77, one of them. But regardless of how old it is, you gotta take what has happened before you. Look at that. And if all your samples are the Warriors and this recent Nuggets team, then stop. Don't give me that. That's an exception. That's not a standard. I'm looking for standards. Let's win by the standard. John Morant is our exception. Yeah, it's like, people want to. And Steph and Clay, this is big shout out to them. they fucked up the league. Like they messed up the NBA. They did. But they did it in a good way. It's entertaining, but you messed it up because it's people chasing you, and they simply do not have the best two shooters to ever breathe on planet Earth, and a 6'5" power forward.
They don't have the skill set. They don't have the
Yeah,
skill set. Yeah.
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 It's that. It's not just it's people that's got a skill set to shoot off the dribble threes, right? Even Trey Mann can do that now, right? Steph Curry doesn't have a skill set. Steph Curry is a paradigm shifter. That is the difference between him and everybody else that shoots off the dribble threes. Period. He shifts the entire paradigm, meaning there is absolutely no defense that can do anything with him. Same way LeBron is coming downhill. That's what Steph is from the 3-point line, but 3 is worth more than 2. So that breaks your back even worse. That was my whole point to it. But even like you said, Iguodala, Chris Livingston, Sean Livingston, they could have started for somebody when they were winning championships.
Easily.
But they didn't because they wanted rings. So no matter who you bringing out, and maybe Vince, Vince is a starter level player, or Jalen, whoever it is, you need starters off the bench to win a championship, period.
Yeah, for sure.
But in my defense, let me say this. I got to end it with this. In my defense, I didn't know Jalen Wills was going to turn into this. Didn't see it coming. So this summer when I said it,
anybody seen it.
Yeah, this summer when I said it, it was like, okay, you got Vince and you got Gigi and then you got Bane. Well, now it's 3 of them. So yeah, you can start Bane. It don't matter. Just bring the starter off the bench. That's all I'm saying. Get you one starter off the bench.
For sure. And you said something very interesting because I feel like the main reason why Edie didn't start last night, and the main reason why he's been playing low minutes is because of things like what happened when he had to guard LeBron on the island. Those are exceptions to the rules, and that's something that this coaching staff just doesn't seem to understand, man. This coaching staff, hold up. Let me. This coaching staff, man, they belong in the doghouse, bro. These first 10 games, man, like the way we've shaken out of them, I'll take it. You know what I mean? But hindsight is 2020, I know, but we could easily be in a much better position right now. And I just think that's because they don't really understand things like that. When LeBron went for his 39, LeBron can go for 39. He can go for 50 if he want. If he gonna get it the way he was getting it, with him having to go downhill and finish over top of Edie, and him having to shoot top of the key 3-pointers the entire night, if he gonna beat us that way, that's fine. Like, I'll take that. And I think they kind of they killed the kid's confidence a little bit, taking him out of the starting lineup and beating him up for stuff like that, because that's an exception to the rule. Like, LeBron is an exception to the rule. If LeBron goes out there and gives you 15 on an island, I'm starting you the next game. It's LeBron James. If you go out there and you let Jonas Valanciunas give you 15 on an island, that's completely different. You know what I mean? If you let Walker Kessler give you 15 on an island, even a higher level player, if you let DeMar DeRozan give you 15 on an island, that's a different type of thing. But I just didn't like how it seemed like they kind of punished him for LeBron James being LeBron James. Because I don't know too many players that you can put on an island with LeBron James when he's shooting that 3-pointer the way he was, that's going to stop him from going for 39 the other night. It's not a lot of players on the planet.
The man got over 40,000 points, right? So realistically, anybody in their right mind is saying to themselves, we're not going to stop him from scoring. Only he can stop himself from scoring. Him and the coach and the bench. That's it. Like, it's no stopping. So if that even factors into your decision making, then you got the wrong frame of mind in the first place. It's nothing Zach or Shaq could do with LeBron James coming down. It's not possible. We
watch Ben Wallace and that Pistons team, one of the best defenses of all time. They couldn't 28 straight or 25 straight. They couldn't do
25
nothing
straight, including overtime.
with baby LeBron. They couldn't do nothing with him. So, yeah, my bad. I just had to throw that tidbit in there.
With Edie, look, truth be told, this is a coaching staff, even before Tomas got here, that was just not comfortable with interior play. Like they're not comfortable with the idea of it. It bogs down whatever they have in their mind for efficiency. But they drafted the guy at the end of the day. And it worked out in their favor, whether they like it or not, or know it or not. The dude is who he is, and I'm almost certain at this point Ja Morant had something to do with Zach Edey being here. I'm almost 1,000% certain.
Sure.
He was like, "Go get me him." Like
that might explain. I don't know if people realize it, but Ja Morant is a lot more intense with Zach Edey on the court. He's a lot more interactive and pulling him to the side and saying, "Look, this is what you got to do." And that might be a good theory because it just seems like he's been the main one. Ja Morant has been the main, not the sole one, but the main cog in pulling Edey to the side and saying, "Look, man, this is what you so that you might be on to something."
Well, Ja's extremely high IQ basketball player, right? So it's common sense that a 7'4", 300-pound person that has way above average agility and mobility for that size and got a mean streak to him is going to help him when he weighs less than 200 pounds and is an airborne player and a speedster. Like it's just common sense. He's seen it with Adam, so he's like, "Shit, I got a bigger version of him now. We finna work. I got a bigger offensive version of him. We're gonna make this work." So that. Yeah, I'm not too worried about Edey in the sense that, okay, you gave him 22 minutes last night. He gave you 14-8 with 2 blocks. He gave you 4. Look, you played multiple people more minutes than him, and he still had more impact. So again, I'm not worried about somebody that you throw him in the fire, you knock him off rhythm, you stagger his minutes, and he can still be that productive. I live with it. Because eventually he gonna play his way through the tape the same way LaRavia played his way through the tape and Zaire and Roddy didn't. Like the better people are gonna play their way through the tape at the end of the day. They are.
For sure, man.